This is the primal scream of a dying regime.
Pray for our enemies, because we're going medieval on these people. You're just not got a free shot on all these networks lying about the people. The people have had a belly full of it. I know you don't like hearing that. I know you try to do everything in the world to stop that, but you're not going to stop it. It's going to happen.
And where do people like that go to share the big lie? MAGA media. I wish in my soul, I wish that any of these people had a conscience.
Ask yourself, what is my task and what is my purpose? If that answer is to save my country, this country will be saved.
War Room. Here's your host, Stephen K. Bannon.
It's Saturday, 1 August, year of our Lord 2026. Tej Gill, you spent a good part of your life in defense of this republic as a Navy SEAL in some pretty bad neighborhoods like the Middle East. Did it surprise you what you've seen the last couple of days happening in the Spanish-held part of Morocco, sir?
No, it seems to be part for the course, Steve. The whole world is unraveling as we know it. You know, you got what's going on in Ukraine, Russia, Iran, the whole entire Middle East, and then Spain. Look, this started in 2011 during the Arab Spring under Obama. You know, when Hillary Clinton and her pals toppled Libya, Muammar Gaddafi said, if you guys take me down, there will be a sea of refugees into Europe. And that is exactly what's happened. And then now we got Morocco flooding Spain. It's just more of the same. Europe is losing its identity. There's only two countries in Europe that still have their identities and still have their sovereignty, and that's Hungary and Poland. The rest of Europe is completely taken over by Africans and Arabs.
And why did that? And why was that? Why were Hungary and Poland, all the grief that Orban got? Why were Hungary and Poland able to keep their identity, sir?
Because they stood up. That's it. It's simple. They stuck to their values. They're a Christian country. They stuck to their values. They built walls and fences, and then they enforced the laws. It's simple. You just enforce the laws. It's not hard.
The Amnesty triggered this issue in Spain. They basically gave 500,000, 1 million too, but they're going to give the rest 700,000. That's why they're flooding in. Everybody understands. You get inside, you're going to get amnesty eventually because the political will is going to break. On amnesty in the United States, can we have any form of amnesty in this country for the 100 million illegal aliens that are here, sir?
I hope not. I truly hope not. I hope Trump resumes the mass deportations and we get rid of, 20 million. They say 20 million people came over during Biden, and then who knows how many under Obama. So we've got plenty. So we need to get rid of a lot of them. We need to deport them. We need to enforce the laws. We need to take care of American citizens. American citizens should come first. And under these liberal laws and liberal ideology, the outsiders and the foreigners come first, and the American citizens have to give what they have to support these illegal aliens, and they're criminals, right? Because when you come across the border illegally, you break the law. So by default, you are a criminal.
It's American first, but it's also American citizens first. You got to get a preferred deal, since you got duties and obligations that come with that. Tej, from your days as a gunman in defense of your country, now you've established the greatest coffee company with the best tasting coffee in the world. Give me a couple of minutes on it. I want to make sure people get access to this, and particularly read. Is it 17,000 5-star reviews? How many 5-star reviews do we have right now?
We're over 19,000. With Amazon, with Amazon close to 20, maybe over 20. Yeah, with everything combined. Yeah, it's a lot. People love our coffee. When I was in the SEAL teams, we had the best guns and the best equipment. I've talked about this before. I wanted to make the best coffee, so we use premium fresh beans, and the way we roast it, we don't burn the beans at all. And by not burning the beans at all, it's not bitter and it's not acidic, and you can drink it straight black. That's what I wanted. I wanted a coffee that you can drink straight black. Even the dark roast, we roast the dark roast more, and it gets darker. It starts to burn. That's why it's dark. And even the dark roast, you can drink it without milk or sugar. It's so smooth.
People put cream and sugar in it to kill the acidity, correct? And we've taken the acidity out of Warpath, correct?
Correct. Yeah. So the acidity and the bitterness are the reason that coffee is served with milk and sugar. That's why, when you go to Starbucks and all these places, that when you order all these crazy coffees, it's basically like a shake. It's got so much milk, sugar, syrup, all kinds of stuff in there. This coffee, it's, like I said, it's premium beans. We don't use cheap beans, and we don't burn it. And that's why you can drink it straight black.
The champagne of coffees. What specials I want people to go read. Don't listen to Tej and don't listen to Bannon. Go and look for yourself. 19,000 reviews, almost 20 if you count Amazon. Go immerse yourself in the information on the coffee and the reviews. Take it from your own compadres. This is the champagne of coffee. We made this having consumed enough suboptimal Navy swill in our lives. Tej said, no, we're going to make the best coffee ever to be equivalent to the material that the SEALs use. And you taste it yourself. You can drink it black. We want you to drink it black. That's the whole purpose of the exercise, to get the real flavor and robust taste of coffee and enjoy it like it was enjoyed when it first came on the scene, I don't know, 500 or 600 years ago. Tej, where they go to read it and the specials, all of it, where they go?
You go to warpath.coffee, use promo code WARROOM. I just bumped the discount code up to 20%. It's usually 15%. So this weekend, it's 20%. Warpath.coffee, promo code WARROOMs. Go on there, read the reviews, and try it. If you haven't tried it, try it. It's once you drink our coffee, you'll be hooked. It's amazing.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate you. Thanks for taking the time to join us. Really appreciate it. Tej Gill built a hell of a company from scratch, from an idea we talked about and kicked around for years. He executed, now one of the fastest growing coffee companies in the country. Warpath. Go check it out today. Really honored to have Jeffrey Kerr and Doug Mclinko join us, two partners of Sam Faddis. We're going to have a continue kind of in memoriam to Sam Faddis, given everything he not just meant to the show, but meant to the country in different aspects of his life. We were we had a couple hours the other day on a lot of people in the Committee on Present Danger and others that worked on with Sam on many of the geopolitical issues and things we cover on the show all the time, and then work we do outside. I wanted to, but Sam had dedicated a huge part of his life to the Patriot movement in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, and also to make sure we got voter integrity and we could have free and fair elections. Jeffrey Kerr, let me start with you. Walk us through your association with Sam, and what was basically the work that you're doing and still continue to carry on?
Yeah, I met Sam right around 2020, just by happenstance. I was involved with some volunteering, some things, and some political initiatives, and met Gina and Sam, and then got invited to their house, and it was, an honor. And it just started with a small group and trying to get things done, such as fighting vaccines, the masks, and all the stuff that was going on down in Pennsylvania. And from there it grew, and Sam was just tireless. He would volunteer his time and his money, to do anything, travel all over the state of Pennsylvania. It was incredible. Weekends, and one time there's a real strong group up in Erie County, and from Susquehanna County, where we are, to Erie County, it's a 6-7 hour drive. And Sam just did it. And I don't know how many times he was out there. And one time I volunteered to go with him. Thankfully, he didn't take me up on that, because I'm not sure I wanted to spend 14 hours going out there and back. But it was an honor. And he was so smart, so tireless, and motivated, and would do anything for, again, election integrity. We had that big rally out in Bloomsburg right after the 2020 election that he put together. Catherine Engelbright came up, Jack Maxey was there. There's a bunch of other presenters that he put together, and it was well attended. That was just one of the many things that he did.
Given his life was in several, he was an Army officer, a lawyer, and then he was a CIA operative in really the tip of the spear in the hardest, baddest neighborhoods, worst neighborhoods in the world. And he would come on the show, and he had such amazing knowledge about the Chinese Communist Party. He'd have such amazing knowledge geopolitically of what we're doing, the strategy of it, but also the practicality. What was it that drew him to then get so involved really as a grassroots leader in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania? And I say, if we don't have Pennsylvania, it's very tough to win national elections. What was it that drew from his experience? Because you'd think he'd stay just involved in geopolitical or foreign policy or national security, but actually, this is why I say he was like a five tools player in baseball. He was involved, whether it's the vaccine issues, Fauci, or the lockdowns and or voter integrity. What was it that drove Sam to actually get engaged and involved at a local level?
I think it was just the desire to do the right thing, and just to do what he maybe called for. That he saw all of this injustice and corruption and just wrongdoing, on a local and try to do something on a local level. And he saw other people that were, frustrated with what was going on, and organized people to do that. And, one of the things, Steve, like you just mentioned, the stuff he accomplished and the stuff that he did throughout his career. And when you sat down with him, it wasn't like, hey, this big ego or anything like that. He was just an easygoing, soft-spoken guy, so polite, so respectful to others, in the room, and that he would, just welcome everybody and have everybody included in the discussion, and also, to whatever level you wanted to volunteer. He never really pressured anybody, but always opened the door to someone who wanted to get involved. And again, I think to your question, just this, the integrity that to do the right thing, I guess, drove him to again just do this on a local level, although it ended up being statewide in Pennsylvania.
And had national impact. Hang on one second. I want to bring Doug in to the conversation. Doug, how did you meet Sam? What was your involvement?
So I met Sam. I can't even tell you when. I love Sam, and and he mentioned Gina. Gina was Sam. They were like a team. She's as tough as Sam is, but Sam not only just talked about it and traveled around the state, he was a warrior. Now, we sued the state of the Department of State and the governor of Pennsylvania on the illegality of the mail-in ballots after the so-called Republican legislature screwed Donald Trump and did the mail-in balloting, and then we sued him and won in Commonwealth Court. Well, it was where it was deemed unconstitutional. Sam was there every minute. I talked to that man every day. I loved him, and he was a warrior like nobody. He's a Pennsylvania giant. And Steve, this administration is not paying attention to the grassroots that the guy on your screen put together. I've talked to him about that every day. We feel like we've been left behind. And if somebody wants to win in 28, they better sit down with what Sam put together and get them back on board, because we feel we've been left behind. It's not even 28, it's 26. That's one of the reasons I wanted to go from Sam's work and understanding of the Committee on the Present Danger and all the work he did for us on Iran and Persia. And I mean, just a encyclopedic knowledge, and had been there, not some theoretic, not some professor talking to you, but a guy had actually been there. But he would tell you, I think some of his greatest work he's most proud of was the grassroots effort in the Commonwealth. I want to go back to that lawsuit. This was the power of Sam. He could see downrange. That's why Doug and these guys that went and sued gave us the I think, the playbook right there, why you could not certify the 2020 election. This thing would get kicked into the House of Representatives, and we were won on a vote, on a straight state vote by state party delegation, given the Electoral Count Act of 1887, and President Trump would have continued on. Now, divine providence works in mysterious ways.
I think divine providence actually deemed that it was better to spend years in the wilderness to regroup and come back in 2024. Short break. Back in a moment.
Here's your host, Stephen K. Bannon.
Let me talk to you about a second about Birch Gold and why you need to go over to the end of the dollar empire that we've worked on for 5 or 6 years and to put out 8 free installments with the 9th installment coming. Birchgold.com /Bannon. I think I got that right, Mo. Captain Bannon. I keep talking about this highly leveraged bet the nation has as kind of the nation's business model. And this was manifested in this $40 trillion by this whiz kid. A $40 trillion hedge fund collapsed on basically Thursday and Friday. And they've come to find out that the bets were on AI companies were leveraged up 400%. So you have a country with $40 trillion in debt. We're got $2 trillion deficit. That's going to continue on. We got $1.5 trillion defense budget. We're now running out of arms in the Middle East, and we're having to, because we gave Ukraine so many, and in the first, during the Gaza war and the attacks on Israel, and then the 12-day war, all of it adds up. We got another bill up on Capitol Hill. It's going to be $350 billion, I think. It's $100 billion on us. No Arab money, no UAE money, no Qatar money, no Israel money, nothing. We're paying for all of it. And NATO's not not sending a ship over, that one frickin' ship for us to defend the Red Sea and the Suez Canal. Okay? My point, now more than ever, you need a still point in a turning world. You need to get ready, because I'm telling you, the financial situation in this country continues to worsen. And now with this war, the growth that President Trump and Scott Bessent worked on and had and was kicking in is now part of it. And Scott's going to be, we're trying to get Scott on next week to talk about the undercurrents in the economy that are working. But there's a lot that's not, and we just got to face that and why it's not. A lot of what they've done with the supply side tax cuts, certain populist elements of it, the returns to the little guy, yes, have been great, but it's not clearly enough. It's just not. So talk to the folks at Birch Gold. Now's the time to immerse yourself in what is fiat currency, why is the dollar so central to the world's economic system, what does being the prime reserve currency mean, and what does it mean for your nation, your community, your family, and at the end of the day, yourself. Birchgold.com /Bannon. End of the dollar empire. Plus you can get all the information, no obligation, totally free, all of it, and talk to the Birch Gold team, Philip Patrick and the team. So, Doug, I want to go back because this is a classic Sam Faddis. You guys understood as the Republican legislature in Harrisburg is going with this thing that you can basically break up the ballot, so Trump has to be at the top of the ballot, right? So they can all scamper and win their seats and just cut Trump loose. You agree to these mail-in ballots. You guys saw it right away and went to court. Tell me about that fight, because this gets to the power of Sam Faddis as a personal example, sir.
So Sam understood it. And well, Sean Parnell and Wally Zimmerlong were the two key factors as well. And Sam was right there. But yeah, the state legislature sold Donald Trump down the drain, and they suck. And that's where, Sam, not all of them, there's some patriots in there, but not a whole lot. But Sam traveled everywhere in Pennsylvania fighting against him. And, we did see that early on. It was a death by 1,000 cuts, the way they stole the election. But that mail-in balloting being unconstitutional, they should be ashamed of themselves. And Sam would tell them right to their faces, you guys should resign in disgrace for what you've done to this Commonwealth and to the United States. It's terrible.
He was concerned about, very concerned now about the grassroots movement. Not the fact that people want to volunteer and want to work, but the fact that in Pennsylvania, I guess people was just saying, hey, is this effort, what are we accomplishing? We got these rhinos that run the legislature. You got a bunch of radical Democrats in Harrisburg and in Philadelphia. They're still manufacturing mail-in ballots. It's tough to win here. What are your thoughts?
No, the steel's on the shelf. We have a governor's race this year, and we have a terrific candidate in Stacey Garrity. And it's still there. And it started with mail-in balloting and what they did, and they allowed him to run to the courts and allowed him to tailor it and make it even worse. And Sam understood it better than anybody. That guy I remember people in Mifflin County, They wanted him to come to speak on that at one of their dinners, Patriots out there at their Republican committee. That guy, at the drop of a hat, drove 4 hours, spoke at a dinner, and turned around, drive back. It's like the other guest said, he would drive all over. He understood that better than anybody. I just love the guy. We miss him terrible. It's going to be a hole that can't be filled, but the administration better understand that the Patriot movement is real in Pennsylvania. There's an army. You call it, Steve. You say Pennsylvania is really red. It is really red, but we lost a leader when we lost Sam. But they're still there, and ready to be called to action.
The first thing Sam would say is "next man up." Right when I went to prison, he was one of the guys. He came in essentially co-hosted. Doug, what's your social media? How do people get you? Because we're never going to allow the Patriot movement up there to atrophy. It's too important. I tell people, hey, look, Texas is the jewel of the crown of the union, but MAGA and Republicans can't win national elections unless you win Pennsylvania. When I took over the 16 campaign, bang, we put the target. And people were laughing at us. Oh, well, Pennsylvania, the blue wall.
I sat with you down to Dugan's.
Go ahead.
I was a Trump guy way before. So was Sam. I sat with you at Dugan's, South Carolina Tea Party convention. Early on, 2 weeks before the Iowa primary. And can I just tell you one thing about Trump, real quick?
Sure.
I parked my car across from the convention. You remember where it was down there? It was in South Myrtle Beach. And I went back and it was a lousy 2-story parking garage. I had my truck parked. I got up there and there's snipers that were guarding Trump as he left that convention. And I thought, I was a Trump guy, never watched The Apprentice, but I liked the guy that had the backbone. But I thought to myself then he had put his life on the line. And but anyway, just at Doug Mclinko on Twitter and Doug Mclinko. I'm not a big social media fan, but that's where you can get me.
Well, we want to know where to get rid of you. Brother, thank you so much.
We love Steve Bannon in Northeast PA.
Well, thank you. We love you guys. I'll be back in touch with you after the show. I think that's the Myrtle Beach Tea Party. They had the convention. I think it's where Trump. I don't know if it's the first time he did it, but I think that's where he stood up. That's where he gave the cell phone for Lindsey Graham. It was right there. That Saturday morning, we were doing Breitbart Radio cover. In fact, I introduced it. I was the MC that day, I believe. Doug, thank you so much. Jeffrey, where can people get you? Where do they go? And give me some closing observations on Sam Faddis and the Patriot movement in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, sir.
I think Doug hit it, real accurate that, we are a red state, but there's a lot of frustrated people who are not going to show up. Stacey Garrett's a good person and all that. But you know what? I just think that there's that Trump type view on issues and having a backbone and going after these key issues and not being, playing games with the Democrats in Harrisburg. Again, the grassroots.
Where do you think for these midterm elections, plugging the House, when you say people you see right now, certain percentage are not going to show up? I got about a minute, 90 seconds. What are the issues that the Patriots and the grassroots there think are not being taken care of, sir?
Strong borders, gender fluidity stuff, boys and girls sports, and the fraud and corruption, attacking that and holding people accountable. That's what we all want, I think, nationwide. But again, the fraud, the people, we have common sense, right? We understand what's going on here. And, it just the uniparty and the establishment not doing anything is the frustrating part. And I think also, as I say, in Susquehanna County, which is a rural county with the farmers and some gas stuff and stone quarries and like that, these people are not going to vote. And it opens the door for the radical Democrats in these rural counties too. I fear. I hope I'm wrong.
Wow. It's the first one we've got that. Does Garrity have a shot?
I hope so. I think so. It's going to take a lot of work. I'd like to see some more, stands on these issues that the grassroots are important to them, and we're not seeing that. I don't think.
Jeffrey, where do people? Are you on social media? Where can people follow
Yeah,
you or track you,
JJ
or you got a
Kerr at Twitter
website?
like that. But I would point to people to unitepa.net and then Unite PA on Facebook. That was Sam's thing. He started it. Somebody's still running it, thankfully. And then also Sam and I started a pack, which is brushfiresoffreedompack.com. Brush Fires of Freedom being the famous Sam Adams quote about motivating small people, small groups. So, please donate. We need some money to fund these grassroots candidates.
Jeffrey, thank you so much for taking time away on a Saturday.
Thank you, Steve. Honored to be on.
Remember of a great patriot, Faddis. 5-tools player, like in baseball. One of the few guys I ever met that could do it all. And a man's man. He had a presence about him and just a man's man that was a leader. And I think what's most amazing, having come back and retired from being a CIA operative and putting himself in harm's way in defense of his country, he didn't retire. He didn't just go play golf, although playing golf is no problem with it. We love that. But he dedicated himself. The classic is Sam taking the 7-hour drive to go speak to patriot groups and take the 7-hour drive back. Unbelievable. I want to thank My Patriot Supply. Go to preparewithbannon.com. Check it out today. Also, Birch Gold, always. Phone out. Bannon 989898. Check it out. Talk to Philip Patrick and the team. We're going to pivot back. I had to bifurcate the other day. Rosemary Jenks interview. We're going to go back to Rosemary. You want to motivate the grassroots. You want to motivate the MAGA movement. You want to motivate the people that got President Trump election victory in 16, 20, and 24. Yes, you do. Go back to the core policies and implement. Pretty simple. And don't listen to the pollsters and don't listen to the political operatives say, oh, no, you cannot mention that. Not just mention it. Action, action, action. Next in the War Room.
War Room. Here's your host, Stephen K. Bannon.
Okay, welcome back. We had Rosemary Jenks on yesterday. We had to break into the president's live stream coming from the cabinet meeting in Camp David. We jumped to that. Rosemary, just wanted, we started with the situation in Spain yesterday and also have talked about today. Just what do you believe the message? Because I'm saying that the establishment Republicans that are running this, going to hit Mandami with a copy of Milton Friedman's text on capitalism is not going to work here. You got to really get down to what these socialist governments, quote unquote, which are really Marxist jihadists, mean. What's the lesson as the audience continues to watch what's happening in Spain and the kind of performative, Italy and others coming to the French government not even do anything under Macron? What lessons should we derive here from the United States as we roll up to this midterm, ma'am?
We've already seen this in the United States. We saw this, the exact same thing that's happening in Spain. We saw this for 4 years under Joe Biden. We saw talk from Congress and from the president, from Joe Biden, about amnesty, and we saw our borders being flooded. Amnesty talk is rolling out the red carpet, an engraved invitation for illegal immigration. That is what has happened in Spain. They just finished an amnesty process with 1.2 million applications received. And guess what? The word went out that Spain is open for business. And so more are coming. And then, of course, the Spanish Supreme Court said that if you come by sea, you cannot be immediately deported. So once again, the courts are tying the hands of the law enforcement agents. And the same thing happens in America. We have seen this. If you encourage and reward illegal immigration, you get more illegal immigration. It's that simple. We cannot afford for the socialists or for the dopey Republicans in the House to be talking about amnesty. This should be a giant red flag for those dopey Republicans. Enough is enough. Let's enforce our laws, deport the illegal aliens who are here, and move on.
Ben Harnwell drew the line. He says, look, even with the debt and other things, we've had Birch Gold on, Philip last night. We've talked about this. He says, whether it's the war or whether it's Israel's influence on American foreign policy, whether it is debt or anything, that the key, he believes, political question needs to be answered by the electorate in Western Europe and the United States is very simple. Are you for continuing invasion by illegal aliens, or are you prepared to stop it 100% and deport on a mass basis, mass deport every illegal alien or migrant that's in your country? That's the dividing line. You're either for that or you're against it. And if you can't make up your mind, that means you're against it. Do you buy that?
Absolutely, but I would expand it a little bit to say if you are for mass migration, mass immigration into a nation, you are against that nation. So that includes both legal and illegal immigration. It's not enough to just say we're going to secure our borders against illegal immigration. You have to deport the ones who are here, but you also have to stop mass legal immigration because it is doing the same kind of harm to the American people as illegal immigration. The only difference is that it happens under the law instead of outside the law. The economic impacts, the cultural impacts, all the other impacts are exactly the same with legal immigration. So we need to stop both.
It's a perfect segue to our next topic, and you were going to get into the legal immigration. Here's the point. I would like you to start with this point that upsets me more than anything. The young people in this country, and now when I say that all the way into their 40s, that have done everything right. They have been the people that have focused and grinded since the time they were little kids to go every step of the way, to go and go into high school and do the best, get the best grades, particularly in highly technical, the sciences, engineering, math, all the hard courses, physics. They never shirked. They went to college. They got great grades, graduate school. They became STEM workers or tech workers. Those are the ones, after doing everything correctly, we have basically shunned by these quote unquote legal immigration systems. If you don't correct this, you're not going to have a country. If you start losing, we keep talking about deporting the worst of the worst. We're losing the best of American citizens because we have told them after all that work and playing by the rules and all that grinding that it didn't mean anything. That we're going to bring foreigners in to take your jobs. Rosemary Jenks, how is that done by the established order, ma'am?
Yeah, it absolutely is tragic. And it starts out with optional practical training. So a foreign student comes to the United States on a student visa, which is restricted, according to the law, to when they are studying. And yet, because of George W. Bush and President Obama, we have this program called optional practical training where we give a work permit to a foreign graduate and let them stay in America and take a job that would otherwise go to an American graduate. The difference is that the employer and the foreign student get a tax break. So the employer is actually benefiting financially from hiring a foreign graduate rather than an American graduate. Now, if we can't give our own American students access to entry-level jobs, how on earth are they going to get onto the economic ladder in the first place? These are entry-level jobs, and we are prioritizing foreign students rather than Americans, and it's disgusting. And Congress has never authorized optional practical training. President Trump could end it with the stroke of a pen, but what is happening instead is that DHS is announcing that they're going to do this $100,000 fee, just like they did with H-1Bs, on the OPT program, the optional practical training, and it is not going to work. I mean, the H-1B fee has already been held up in the courts. This will be too, but the fact is, this isn't about who can pay more. It's about putting Americans to work. It's about letting them realize the dreams that they have after putting in all this work, getting through high school and college and doing everything right. And then they're shut out of the job market. It's insane. And then once the foreign students get OPT, They then get their employer to sponsor them for an H-1B visa. So that's the next step. And then from H-1B, they get their employer to sponsor them for a green card. And then they occupy that job permanently. So Americans are completely shut out of those jobs because we are prioritizing foreigners. It's got to stop.
But Lutnick tells me that Lutnick tells the world that since he put these fees on H-1Bs, they've totally collapsed and the program's not a problem anymore, and that Warren should just shut up about it. Your thoughts, ma'am?
That's absolutely not true. It is demonstrably false. The H-1B cap has been filled for this year. It's been filled for 2027. And there are uncapped categories of H-1Bs that are also being subscribed. So, a university, a research institution, a government agency, there's no cap on how many H-1Bs they can bring in. And if they're going through this foreign student to OPT to H-1B process, there's no $100,000 fee. Only people from abroad are charged the $100,000 fee. So this pipeline that the government has created to prioritize foreign workers is alive and well, and it is filling the caps. And the $100,000 fee is not being paid because it's not required for those people. So it is ludicrous to say that we've fixed any kind of problem with H-1B. Just ask any American tech worker and they'll tell you exactly what the problems are with the H-1B program.
Can we go back to the railhead of the problem? One things I've been adamantly opposed to is why we're taking so many foreign students, particularly to the better colleges. If you look at all the tech program, you look at all the postgraduate programs, it's all full of either Chinese or from South Asia. Isn't that the problem? The 500 or 600,000 foreign students we have here. And President Trump has said, hey, it's a study. If you do this, you're going to lose a bunch of colleges. Well, hey, guess what? I guess we're going to lose some colleges, right? That's not that we shouldn't jeopardize American citizens. We shouldn't jeopardize the nation because a bunch of woke institutions are basically taking the arbitrage between in-state students or American citizens that pay X and foreign students funded by their government that pay 4X, that arbitrage to keep the retirements of a bunch of woke professors that had tenure is not the problem of the American people. Shouldn't one of the things we also do is put massive restrictions, like the Chinese Communist Party should have no Chinese students here. And most of those students are innocent, but they're still required to be information conduits back to the CCP, whether they like it or not. Shouldn't we just ban all foreign students from the United States today? Take like a 10-year moratorium, ma'am?
Yeah, I mean, we would be fine with that. But, at the very least, what we need to do is ensure that no American citizen is denied a spot in a university because a foreign student is admitted. If the foreign students obviously are big money makers for the universities, but no American should be denied a place. And this is particularly visible in the medical community, in medical training, because there are a certain number of seats in universities for medical students, and every single foreign student that you admit into one of those institutions means an American is denied that spot. And then once they graduate, there are residency restrictions. There's a limited number of residency spots. So, people talk about how, and especially with the Haitians, well, these are all in healthcare. Well, the reason they're in healthcare is that we have excluded Americans from these programs. We have told them they are not allowed to get the training that they need and join the profession. That needs to change. It is absurd. No other sane country would displace its own citizens to educate foreigners. It doesn't make any sense. One way or another, we have to pay for Americans to be in America. So either we pay for them to go on welfare, or we allow them to get the training they need to get a job so that they can pay their own way. This whole program, again, we need to go back to the very start of immigration policy and ask ourselves who benefits and who is harmed. If Americans are being harmed by our immigration policy, then it's the wrong policy. Immigration
Gotta stop.
policy in America should benefit Americans, full stop.
Rosemary, where do people go to get facts, data, and analysis about all this, ma'am?
IAPaction.com, IAPaction.com. We have a ranking system that ranks all 535 members of Congress on their immigration votes, what they're doing, what they're not doing. We have fact sheets on various legislation that's been introduced and various immigration issues. IAPaction.com, and we are on X at IA Project.
Real quickly, if we implemented your recommendations and what President Trump ran on in 2024 today, do you think we'd have any problem holding the House and holding the Senate, ma'am?
Absolutely not. I mean, Americans are just waiting to see who is going to serve their interests on immigration. Whoever does that is going to win.
What's your social media? Real quickly, where do people go for social media?
IA Project on X and YouTube and Instagram and all the others. And we need the support of the posse to keep doing this work.
You're a patriot and a hero, ma'am. Appreciate you. Rosemary Jenks. Thank you. A bifurcated interview. Friday and Saturday. How about that? Short commercial break. Back to the war room in just a moment.
War Room. Here's your host, Stephen K. Bannon.
Okay, welcome back. Trevor Comstock, you're a good test case on this. And I want to use you to show people about how you have to think, or I shouldn't say how you have to think. One of the ways I think younger generation, other people are thinking to sort one of these problems out. When we talked about, helping you launch your company and doing your company years ago, you had this concept of sacred human health, of making these products that would be totally original. The research would be done. You would launch a handful. And I can tell you the company's been enormously successful. Why? The products just sell themselves. And you tell this with going and looking at the comments on your website. But there's one aspect of it that only came to really, I understood as we started looking through about how you're going to launch and put the company together and everything like that. And you said, look, part of doing this the way I want to do it, this has to be American made. And one, I'm doing it for patriotism. I am an American, and I believe that we can do things in America that other people can't do. And excellence. The other is that I just don't trust some of these foreign sources. I want to make sure we have total control of this, and I know where it's coming from, because that's going to really get customers for us over the long term, and the brand's going to resonate with something. And as I kind of queried you on this and worked through it, it was pretty obvious that, yes, you would have revenue growth and a revenue driver, but in keeping your prices competitive with others, that essentially you would take a big hit in profits, that your operating margin would just be lower, right? And we discussed this, and he said, hey, we'll make this up over time with brand. The brand will stand for something over time. This is one of the issues we have in this country, that particularly as private equity and others are involved, that just look at the pure mass. And look, I came out of Goldman Sachs, so I know how the finance community looks at things and how the pressure they put on entrepreneurs. But I got a minute or two. I just want you to walk the audience through this, because this is one of the aspects that has to be a solution here, that American businessmen and women have to think through the issues of quality and quality control, but also what the business stands for. Is it just purely to make as much money as possible, as quickly as possible? I look around, and you are one of the people that I say, hey, look, this guy could make 2 or 3 times more money. The company could be 3 times more profitable if he did it a different way. But his belief is that you need that quality. I can only do that quality with my hands on the control of it. And if we don't make as much money per unit as possible, that's not the end of the world. It'll be fine. Walk us through that logic, sir. And we're going to talk about products. I got about 5 minutes, and I want to make sure you talk with your pitch or where to go. But just give me a minute or two on that.
Yeah, great to see you, Steve. But yeah, to your point, unfortunately, what we always saw throughout the market, especially when we first started and what we see through today, is that a lot of these companies sometimes start out small and great and they offer great products, and some of them are American made. But like you mentioned, a lot of them get bought out by private equity groups or big corporations like Nestle. And then, sure enough, and soon enough, everything gets outsourced overseas, and the quality control is pretty questionable. So that's why we always, promised to make everything right here in America. We always wanted to make sure that we had a good grip on the quality control. And a lot of these other companies too, not only are they just like making mass produced products, but they're adding a lot of fillers to it. Things like chemicals, seed oils, and preservatives, even though they're marketed and advertised as healthy, but unfortunately they still contain a bunch of junk within them. So our promise and our goal is always to just make sure that everything is produced right here in the USA and only use natural ingredients. So we never have anything synthetic within our products. And a big thing that we do that costs us a lot of money, but we do it anyways because we want to make sure that we're offering the best products possible, is to make sure that everything's third-party lab tested. So we're always testing every batch for things like purity, and ingredient sourcing, as well as like things like heavy metals and bacteria. So like I mentioned, a lot of companies don't do that. Most don't do that because it is quite expensive to do, let alone produce everything right here in America. But that's what we always wanted to do, just to make sure that we're producing the best products possible, and not giving people the runaround. So like I mentioned, unfortunately, when you're like looking on Amazon for a healthy product, sometimes they can be healthy for sure, but then when you take a closer look at the label, you find a ton of synthetic ingredients, like I mentioned, chemicals. And then if you study the company, you find out that it's usually produced overseas, usually in China. So we're just trying to do the opposite, and make sure that we're actually standing up to, our promise of producing actual products made in America that don't contain any artificial junk within it.
Where do you want people to go today to the website? What product do you want to talk about? Where do you want people to go?
Yeah, so I was going to mention, I didn't get a chance to come on the other day, but we did extend the tallow moisturizer and sacred healing salve through today. So if you still wanted to take advantage of that, you can use code SKIN at checkout for 20% off those two specific products. And of course, anyone that doesn't know about the tallow moisturizer, it's one of our best sellers. We always get amazing feedback on it, but it's just amazing for people that are struggling with, dry skin, age spots, eczema, seborrhea, anything like that. It helps calm down those symptoms quite a bit. And like I mentioned, it's just amazing for daily hydration. And also, going off the natural aspect, it contains natural nutrients like the vitamin A, D, E, as well as K, which your skin does need to stay healthy and radiant. So people love that product. The reviews that we get on a daily basis are phenomenal. So I encourage people to check that out. And like I mentioned, you can go to sacredhumanhealth.com. And you can use code SKIN for 20% off the tallow moisturizer as well as the sacred healing salve, which are both handmade and produced by our small team in Idaho.
Amazing. One more time, where they go? I want people to read the reviews, get all the information on the product, but read the reviews. The reviews sell the company and sell the product. Where they go?
Yeah, you can go to sacredhumanhealth.com. Like I mentioned, you can use code SKIN at checkout for 20% off the tallow moisturizer and sacred healing salve.
Sir, thank you very much. And thank you for the great job you're doing at the company.
Thank you.
It's a model of smart capitalism. You're not going to get a better and tougher capitalist than Trevor Comstock. This guy's a fighter. He's built a great little company. But he sits and goes, hey, look, I won't make 3X per unit, but I'm going to make it here in America. I'm going to make sure the quality's best. And it's going to be American made by Americans for Americans. Sacred Human Health. Couldn't be prouder of these guys. What a show. Wow. Rest of the weekend, I'll be up on social media the entire time, and we'll see you back here at 10 a.m. Eastern Daylight Time on Monday morning. Check it out. See you then.